most curious.
So, I saw that video and I thought, what the hell am I doing with my life? How can I have lost that amazing feeling of invention, that incredible, scary, frightening, terrifying feeling when you have a blank piece of paper and you say, I'm going to create something new and something different. And that led me down a path to set up 22 Cans. And although it's insanely scary being an independent again, without the wonderful infrastructure of Microsoft, it is amazing, incredible experience to sit down every day and realize that you have that blank piece of paper. And what I'm going to go through is an approach to this company which hopefully might inspire some indies and might inspire a lot of questions in the room for people to turn around and say, well, either that's crazy or that's a bad idea. But it is an approach which I think might be interesting to you. So, it feels to me that every game I have made has led me to this point. And this point is one of the most exciting, well, it is the most exciting time in this industry. On the one hand, we've got these incredible experiences, these AAA core gamer experiences that sell anywhere between 20 million and 2 million. They are like incredible feature film quality experiences. Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, Nintendo, those amazing experiences. On the other side, you've got some truly exciting, amazing, innovational little games which you have to hunt down on the App Store. You have to hunt around and find on websites on the PC. And you've got everything in between. And at this time, we need that huge spectrum of development that those polar opposites bring. Because the world has a problem. And the problem it's got too much technology and not enough products that use that technology. Now, we've heard about cloud. There's adverts for cloud all over the place. They're on billboards, on sides of buses. I still don't really get it myself. It seems to me the only thing that cloud has done, this is a true story, I've got Apple TV at home, and of course I use an iPhone and an iPad, and my iPhone has embarrassing photographs on it, and the Apple TV will choose, bizarrely, which photographs it's going to show. I had the local vicar round, and as I was talking to the vicar, up flashed one of those embarrassing photographs on my Apple TV in huge 50-inch splendor. That seems to me what the cloud is all about. It's just, at best, it just does stuff that I don't really want it to do. On top of that, we've got this thing called multi-device. Gone are the days when we ask about platform. You don't ask about platform anymore. You don't develop for one platform, you develop for all platforms. For Android and iOS and PC and browser and consoles and Xbox Live Arcade. This huge array of different platforms. We can't expect consumers and gamers to not have our experience on one thing and have it on something else. We can't expect them to change from Nintendo to Apple to... Our consumers want it everywhere, and why not? But still, there isn't really an application, there isn't really a game which really, truly shows that off delightfully. The audience which we've got is truly incredible now. We used to be this select club. Just 3 years ago, we were a club of core gamers. A club which you only got into if you started gaming when you were like 3. And it was totally inaccessible to the majority of the world. It wouldn't, if you gave a controller out to, your average human being, they'd look at it as if they'd been given some sort of weird pleasuring device. You know, that, and it vibrated, of course. And, you know, now, suddenly, we've got, you know, this thing called social gaming. Bizarre name, by the way, because I don't find that gaming at all in any way social, but other than these aggravating posts which appear from my would-be friends. We've got social gaming that have brought tens of millions. I'll tell you one fascinating thing for everyone in this room. At this precise point in time, there must be 100 million people on this planet playing a computer game. Just 5 years ago, that number was probably 10 million, at most. 100 million people, just think of that. You could go home today and start working on a game which could touch 100 million people's lives. How fucking cool is that, man? And then, in addition to this whole new audience, we've got this thing called persistence. I love this word, persistence. I love the fact that just maybe someone is going to make a game out there that I could not play for 10 hours or 20 hours, I could play for a lifetime. Imagine me showing my grandchildren a game that I played when I was 53. Well, that's not too far away actually now, but you know, this idea that the things that we play can last forever. I love that idea. And then lastly, what we're using to interact with these games is constantly changing. From touch to gesture control, from mad, crazy things from Google, like Google Glass if you've seen it, to this new thing which people are talking about called haptic displays. That is all changing and up for grabs. So what an incredibly exciting time. If you mix that excitement with the video I saw about the Curious thing, with the idea that why not go out and be an indie developer again, that's why I'm doing it. And I've now taken up like 20 minutes just on a slide that was supposed to take 5 minutes. Anyway, let's just go through my plan. The plan is, the first thing is, being a designer, you know, it's a wonderful, incredible job, but it doesn't mean anything unless you've got an incredible team. The ideas I have mean nothing without the team around me. So the first job of this new company is to bring together an amazing team of people. And it's not a team of people which is just people that I've worked with for 10, 20 years, although there are people that are like that. I want to mix veterans with experts, with people who have never even been or thought of being in the computer games industry before. Pulling that team together and then saying to them, right, let's work on something that's never been seen before. That's the first and big step to take, to pull together a great team. The next is to develop an amazing, incredible, unique game. Now, that's not as hard as it sounds these days, because with all this technology out there, all you really have to do is think of a game that links all that together. But I love that 100 million number. I love it. I love that 100 million. And that, as a game designer, is what you want. That's your fuel is when you think, can I make something for the world? I love that idea. But there are problems with coming up with unique tech and unique game designs with a unique team. And those problems are what I'm going to go through now and our solution to those problems. Because what we thought of doing is, there's so much stuff to invent, we have to experiment a lot. And why not share those experiments to with the world? So let's go through our first experiment. The reason why we're doing these experiments is very simple. A lot of the tech that we all have to create, I'm not just talking about 22 cans, I'm talking about the industry, really has never been invented before. How are you going to use the cloud? How are you going to appeal to mass audience and appeal to core gamers? How are you going to create something which involves and brings together a community. These are all things that are really tough to get your teeth into without experimenting, and involving the world in those experiments as you're developing the game is of crucial importance. Also, the other problem that these experiments that we're doing, which we're releasing, they do is they pull this team together. If anyone's worked recently in a new team, you'll know it takes a long time to get the culture and the fit of a team together. And if you're working on the most important thing of your entire life as in your first day, that can be somewhat problematic. And lastly, there's this vast array of tools out there to use, and trying to analyze which is the best tools as you're developing your game is problematic. So let's just talk about the first experiment that we're doing. And it's an experiment called Curiosity. And the idea is to create something that is very intriguing for the world, and to experiment with that, both in terms of technology and psychology, to see how far we can push the most simplest idea. And the idea was, I had, after I watched a TED talk from J.J. Abrams, and he brought this box out on stage, and he sat it on stage, and he said, the reason I am a writer, essentially I'll paraphrase, and the reason I'm a writer is because my grandfather gave me this box with a big question mark on it and said, always wonder what's inside the box. And he spent the rest of his life imagining what was inside the box. Well, if that curiosity that J.J. Abrams had drove him to become one of the most successful screenwriters of all time, then there's something in that. So I had this simple idea, and the simple idea was this, was to have a cube which people can tap on, and one person eventually, as they chip away at the edges of the cube, will get to the center, and something in the center of that cube will be revealed to that one person, and that would be something absolutely incredible and amazing. So let's just go through, I'm trying to rush now because I know that I'm running low on time. Let's just go through some of the aspects of that. So initially, this was the first inspiration shot I gave the team. This is back in March. The team consisted of these two guys here, and a little design document, and this was my artwork. For the cube, and so I initially laid out this. This basically said, when you download the app onto any device, you activate the app. This white room appears. In the corner of the room is this black cube. You touch the black cube and you float towards it. These words come up on screen: curiosity, what's inside the black cube. If you tap on the black cube, these little cracks will appear. You can keep on tapping. The cracks will get bigger and a little hole will appear. As you look at the cube, you can see other taps and cracks appearing, and that's when you realize that thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people are all trying to chip away at this cube to find out what's inside. There's only one black cube. Seems simple enough, and me as a designer, I'm sure it's going to take just a couple of weeks to do. But actually, when you think about it, it has a huge amount of technology. This cube experiment will support up to 1 million people simultaneously tapping on this one cube and breaking little pieces away. This experiment will have lots of gameplay motivations, very simple gameplay motivations in it, which we'll talk about in a second. So we started on that. Then, fortunately, we had an artist start, and he started with some concept shots. As you can see, you start getting a feeling of how big this cube is. It's truly vast. It's actually made up of around about 60 million cubelets, little tiny cubes, all of which can be tapped on individually. We realized that my initial idea was that people could tap and tunnel in to the cube and kind of sculpt the cube. This was technically incredibly difficult to do, and so we started to think of another way, which actually turned out to be an awful lot more interesting, and that was rather than tap and tunnel, what you're doing is tapping and clearing down one surface of the cube. And below, when that one surface is cleared, another surface is revealed. And on each surface, there can be surprises in there. So it's more like pass the parcel. We had our architect start. He started to get very worried about security and hacking, which caused us to change the nature and the design of the cube again. Oh my God, oh, that's my time. That's my time. What's up? I'll just keep going a little bit longer. We had another artist start, and we started to think about the different views of the cube. When you're in close, what actually happens when you touch a cube. We started to realize that some people will be very lazy when they tap. They won't care about that tap. Other people will want to tap precisely. We started talking about putting texture maps on the lower, the deeper levels of the cube. We started to talk about this idea of people buying things to assist them in the cube, like we have these things called chisels that allow you to tap, and rather than one cubelet going, a whole series of cubelet going, a whole series of cubelets being revealed. We were crazy enough to suggest that the diamond chisel would go for $50,000. That's when someone told me that you couldn't have app purchases on that iOS for $50,000. A bit stupid there, but we started talking about leveling up. The idea that the more you tap, the more levels you go up. In other words, this incredibly simple design that was at the start, just like every game that I've ever been involved with, and any game per person here involved in games will know, designs are never fixed in stone. They always change, and if they change with something like this, just imagine what they change with larger games. A video here just shows you the scale of the cube. We need to start worrying about how the app spreads. As you can see, that's pretty dark, but you can see it's a pretty big cube. We need to start worrying about how the app will spread, why the motivation for people to carry on tapping. So the cube is also a music visualizer. It will visualize music that's playing and as you're tapping. And the leveling up allows people to get a sense of succession. And so we've got the final design now, and if anyone wants to come up later, I've got the final, well, not the final cube, but a working cube on my phone, and you can see it working. We have definitely decided that only one person in the world will reach the center. What is in the center of the cube is absolutely amazing. So amazing, I think it'll appear on news reports. And it's not a dead cat, by the way. We think that this very simple thing will actually be really cool and exciting, because as you chip into the cube, as the cube, just like pass the parcel, it's the psychology of pass the parcel. As the cube gets smaller, so people's excitement will get larger and larger. You don't know what surface is going to be the final surface. You could be the one to finally open this cube. We all have an equal chance. And we're incredibly proud of our tech. It'll be coming out initially on iOS and Android, later on PC browser, and we're considering some other formats on the 22nd of August 2012. It'll be free, except the apps, and we might sell-off surfaces with these stuff. There we are. We still need some graphics programmers. Everyone's a graphic programmer in the room. Really desperately need those graphics programmers and artists. Please email me at 22cans.com. And anyone have any questions?
Yes. Hello.
Yes, it's from the back.
I was really interested in your stance. I heard you say that you were going to do profit share with your developers because can you hear me? Sorry. Start again.
There we go, mic's going. Better be a good question. She's walking a long way.
Hello.
Hello.
I was interested in your, because I read you were going to do profit share or making your developers shareholders of your company, because I have a developer too called Lady Shotgun Games, and it's exactly what we do, because I think that's, you know, getting away from the corporate shareholders is the way to...
Yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit. Anybody who's at 22 Cans for longer than about, I think it's 3 months, gets shares in the company. Everybody at 22 Cans are owners of the company. Obviously, I'm the biggest owner. Just put that out there now. But it is because and the reason and you know, maybe it doesn't make good business sense to do that, but maybe it does. But here's the thing: I truly think I am taking all the people that work at 22 Cans. I'm taking their life, man. I'm taking hours of their life, months of their life, and the least I can do is share this excitement and the success with them. I think it's incredibly important. You know, the only thing that's going to make a great experience is the passion, the dedication of the people that work there, and sharing, us all sharing, and all feeling like shareholders. We try to make everyone feel like owners of the company rather than them being employees of the company. I think it's absolutely the thing to do, for sure. And well done for doing it yourself. Any other questions? One here.
Firstly, IOP.
Hello.
Yeah, in a lot of your games, there's been sort of an overarching god theme straight off.
Yes.
You start from popular, so just keep on. With the cube, was there anything to do with that sort of god?
I don't know. I suppose I should say yes, really, for consistency purposes. There is a weird. If you were to play around with it on my phone, there is this weird psychological thing happens when you start tapping on the cube, because you get this sense of success, because we all love cleaning up. This is one of the things about a God game, is that a lot of people I've found love cleaning stuff. I know that may seem strange if you're a developer, because if you look at my desk, it doesn't look like I like cleaning anything, but we all like cleaning stuff. You get this sense of satisfaction that you've cleared all these cubelets out, but then you pull back and you realise that this whole cube is being cleared, and in a way it feels like a God game where we're all gods. But maybe I'll just mend that up. Any other questions? Yes, there's one middle, left and right. There's one.
Hi. Since this is more like a sociological experiment,
Yes.
how long a run do you imagine this game will go on, and are you prepared for, if it goes too fast, to add additional layers in the background or something like that?
Well, this is the big fear, isn't it? There's 60 million cubelets, okay? If everyone taps 1 cublet a second, then, well, someone will do the maths. But you know, it would take one person 2,448 years or something ridiculous like that. But this is the problem. This whole experiment is a proof point of where we are in this industry. You don't know as a developer how successful your app's going to be. You have no idea. You know, this whole industry, the whole AAA industry, is built on the foundation stones of forecasts. Everything in this industry is built on forecasts. Anyone that's worked on a AAA title will know forecasts drive your marketing budget. They drive the number of units that are going to be ordered. They drive your pre-order campaign, your TV advert campaign, the amount of development funding you have. in this world, in the indie world, where you can release on any platform, you have no idea at all how well your thing's going to do. Angry Birds, on Christmas Day, sold 6.8 million copies. That's insane! Insane! There's 6.8 million people twanging little things at piggy things at bricks. I mean, how could anyone have predicted that? You know, how could anyone predict that something like Draw Something, 6 weeks after it came out, the company was bought for 200 million by Zynga? That is insane. And that's the whole point. The problem we've got with this experiment, for all I know, it could be just you lot that download the app, and it's going to take you months to do it. Or it could be, millions of people. It might take them weeks to do. What I don't want to do is cheat. I don't want to start. The only thing I'm worried about is what's in the middle of the cube is so valuable, it's so life-changingly important that. And you think I'm exaggerating, don't you? You really do. But it's true. It's absolutely true. There are clues out there. What is in the cube, by the way? That I don't want to kind of waste the value of what's inside the cube. So in a way, my heart's torn. In one sense, I want everyone to tap on it. In another sense, I want it to last long enough so I can get lots of lovely data from it. Yeah, question somewhere.
Yeah, I was just wondering what you felt about the Peter Molyneux Twitter account, and if you follow that closely.
Yeah, I do. Smart guy. He is. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. He is far funnier and far more daring and far more engaging and entertaining than I will ever do. I will ever be, because he just comes up with an endless supply of amazing, incredible ideas. And he's another reason why I left Microsoft. I have to tell you, he is. Because he was out there, and I was watching his tweets and probably laughing for harder and longer than anyone else at them. And I realised that, hey, this guy, he can do all this stuff. He can be that free. He can explore these ideas of throwing babies into pits, and you couldn't do that with the corporate PR machine at Microsoft. Good grief, no. And one is, I think he's fantastic. I think that I'd love to see some of those ideas turned into games. The Molly Jam thing that he organised is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And the other thing is, I hope he carries on going for a long time. I don't think I deserve to be parodied by him, to be honest with you. I think he's far more talented than I am on that sort of stuff, for sure. I don't know where the.
Hello. Regarding 22 cans and your experiments, I can see this is experiment number 1.
Yeah.
Is that the sole purpose of 22 cans, the experimentation and seeing how people think and technology, psychology integrate, or is this driving to something bigger for 22 cans in the future?
No, we are working on a game. We're working on a game. Absolutely, we're working on a game, and we know what the next experiment is. The next big experiment. There are some experiments we're going to do within the cube. And a lot of one of the experiments, for example, is something called dynamic balancing. It's the ability to change any aspect of a game on the fly. We're not even having to wait. I could go to a website and change the cube on my particular phone, and that's a piece of technology which me as a designer never got into. But we are making that technology first, experimenting with it in the wider world, because we need it for this final game. And we're developing that final game at the moment. Sometimes we are going to think, Christ, how are we going to do this? And it's brilliant to have an audience of people that we can experiment on those ideas on. But every single experiment that we make is being done because we're testing technology, or we're testing psychology, or we're testing gameplay out, so we can make a brilliant, incredible game finally. And our ambition is to do that within 2 years, about 2 years of today. That's our ambition. Our first problem was to create a team. The second problem was think of the idea. Third problem, to realise what technologies we need which didn't exist. Fourth problem is how we can experiment with those technologies, and that's what these experiments are. It's also a way of kind of building a community, because, you know, it's hard to build a community when you've got nothing to show. And, you know, at least these experiments are more out-facing. They also mean that an idiot like me, when I, you know, sit in front of the press, I tend to get so excited, and those excitement is read as promises a lot of the time. It's a way that those promises can be proved. Any other questions? Across the roads, yeah. She's jogging.
Hi. Will the results ever be made public, or are they something just for your internal?
Yes, we're making it public. We're working with Edge, and we're going to be publishing the results as soon as the Curiosity experiment comes out. We're going to be publishing and sharing those results with Edge, and Edge are going to help us analyze them. We've got, you know, I'd love, for example, to do an online app where people could look at aspects of the cube, but we just simply haven't got the resources to work on that. But we are going to publish all our collected data. We're also going to be publishing the transition of the cube from its start to its release, and how the cube has actually, the cube and the Curiosity experiment, how that's changed, just because it's an interesting experience, because it's so pure, you see. There's nothing, it's such a pure, simple thing, idea, you know, cube that you've got to tap like pass the parcel. But even that idea has changed, so we're thinking we're going to publish that. We haven't spoken to any journalists about that yet, but yeah.
Hi.
Hello.
I understand the experiment, but it gets a bit sinister when you've got the pickaxes that you pay for, because isn't that turning it into an experiment? How much are people willing to pay with the promise of something in the future?
Yes.
But that's not very nice.
Why? Why? Come on, why? Why is that not nice? Because
well, so it's not being
thing.
done in every game.
No, but
we know
here's the
people
thing,
pay for things.
we can't be ashamed of asking people to spend money. We can't be ashamed of that. Because for me, as a designer, that is proof that I've done something meaningful. And I am not saying, I'm not saying that you have to buy these chisels. I don't expect the diamond chisel ever to be purchased. If it is, I want to meet that person. Because, you know, they may be an investor or something. But I'm not doing this to purely monetize, but I don't mind monetization. I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of. Because if you turn around to someone and say, you know, would you pay for this? They're only going to pay for something if they really feel involved in that something. And that's the whole point. It's all part of motivation. Is that if we, especially in this world of free-to-play at the moment, so many mistakes. Me as a consumer sees this time and time again. I don't know if anyone agrees with me. So many mistakes is made in free-to-play. I hate when free-to-play is all about being greedy. Overly greedy, whereas a lot of products are like that. I think some free-to-play is just slapped in on the side. I'd love free-to-play to feel like an investment for someone. And if someone is enjoying tapping so much, then they should be able to upgrade their chisels. I don't mind that, but you know, I don't expect for a second the cube to make us any money. You know, it's actually costing quite a lot to develop it, because it's not just a, as you saw from the visuals, it's not just a, you know, a cube. It's a, you know, it's a real technology, but the reason I'm charging for the chisels is as a proof point on that motivation. Is the simplest form of motivation, the very simplest form of motivation in the world. You cannot get simpler than saying, what's in the box? Is that sufficient to ask people to invest money? And that's going to be a fascinating experiment. We may never sell a single chisel, but I think that we have to experiment with free-to-play. How are we going to monetize the thing that we're doing? You know, we're not just doing it for free. It's my opinion. You know, yeah. Popular or not. Yeah, 2 more questions.
Hi. you were talking about persistence.
Yeah.
But what happens when you open the cube? Will there be another cube after that?
So this is a bit weird. There's another strange theory of mine. When the final cube has been revealed, it will only be shown to one person in the entire world, and we're leading it down to that. My big fear, by the way, that this one person is like my son or something. That's terrible, because you all think. But that one person, is up to them to use social media to spread what has been in the cube, and then that is it. Your cube on your cube 22 cans experiment on your phone. If you launch it again, the cube will be done. Now, I don't know. I actually don't know what will happen. We might have another cube. I couldn't possibly put another surprise that's so significant in another cube. But you know, I may do that. Our plan, though, is that before the cube is finished, and this is scary as well, we will have the next experiment launched, ready, so that your app, the 22 Experiments app on your device, will be able to do the cube and the cooperation experiment. Was that clear or just very confusing? I'll take silence as clear. Last question.
You stating that as a small company you don't have the resources to, say, visualize the data that you're gathering from the project.
Well,
why not allow your fans to do that?
Well, it's an interesting thing, very interesting idea, and I think that's one of the experiments. Is that if I just gave the raw data out to the world, maybe someone would do that, and we might well think about that. It's just that I don't want to promise that we'll have some amazing thing like www.appdata.com with graphs and charts and stuff like that. All I'm saying is that a lot of the results we'll share will be through the Edge articles and through this diary feature, which we haven't kind of signed up at the moment. But I might consider releasing not only all the data but all the design docs and everything to the world. I'm totally happy to do that. Yeah. Great. Thanks very much, everybody.